5:12 through 19. And what you see in Romans 5:12 is that when Adam sinned against God in the Garden of Eden, death through sin was visited upon all men. Now notice here Paul is making two very careful qualifications, because in the book of Romans, he's talking about 4 different kinds of death. And he says, this is a death you get through sin. Well, of all the species of life that God created, only humans sin. The dogs don't sin. The cows don't sin. Only humans sin. So he's saying this is humanity. Then to make sure you get the point, he says death to all men. It doesn't say death to all life. It says death to all men. And so Adam's offense brought death to the human species. And if you read all the way through to the 19th verse, what you'll see is that the moment that Adam sinned, he died instantly, spiritually. But he didn't die physically. That came later. God sent 2 angels to block access to the tree of life. So what's interesting there is humanity had the potential to live forever in a spiritually dead state. But God's intent was to use physical death as a tool to deliver us from the far worse consequence of spiritual death. Now, nowhere in the Bible does it tell us that there was no death of plants and animals before Adam's sin. The Bible is silent on that issue. Well, almost. Psalm 104 does address this. What you see in Psalm 104 is a message of God packing our planet with as much life as possible, as diverse as possible, and as long as the laws of physics will permit. Why? So that God could create us human beings at the very end, and we would be the beneficiaries of all the biodeposits provided by all the animal and plant life that preceded us. And if you get this book, Navigating Genesis, we actually total up the minimum quantity of biodeposit resources in the crust of the earth. It's at least 76 quadrillion tons. And here's the context in Psalm 104, verses 25 and following. It's the property of all life to die off. That happens just because of thermodynamics. I mean, look around you. All of us are in a state of death because of thermodynamics. Look at my face. You'll see that I'm thermodynamically decayed considerably. And Romans 8 says the whole universe was subject to the law of decay. Everything decays. And because of that, it's a property of all life to die off. That's verse 25, verse 26 and 27. God recreates and renews the face of the earth. And it's a process of recreation and renewal that builds up all the biodeposits that allows us to have coal, oil, natural gas, steel, zinc. I mean, all the metals that we mine to build our cities were concentrated by life that predated us. So we thank God for the sulfate-reducing bacteria when we say grace at our dinner table. Well, not every time, but once in a while we do that. But a good question, and by the way, it's addressed in more detail in this book.
Yes. Hi, Dr. Ross. Different type of question. I know that your colleague